You'd be surprised how heavy someday can feel when it's scattered all over your home. I didn't realize it at first because someday often looks harmless. You're walking through a store, maybe it's the kitchen aisle, maybe it's the clearance rack, and you spot something you didn't plan to buy. It's not that you need it right now, but a thought slips in. This could be useful one day. I'll grab it just in case. Maybe it's a fancy jar opener, a set of travel-sized bottles, or a third flashlight because, well, you never know. In the moment, it feels smart, harmless, like you're preparing for life's little curveballs. But if you keep doing that, your home slowly turns into a storage unit for imaginary emergencies. Drawers crammed with gadgets you forgot you owned. Shelves lined with supplies for trips you never took. Closets hiding clothes for someday events that never came. I used to live like that, and at first, it felt safe. But over time, it started to feel suffocating. Today, I want to share why I quit buying just-in-case items and how that single choice created more space, more peace, and more freedom in my life. Buying just in case feels like a safety net. It's that quiet voice saying, what if I need it? What if it's on sale and I never see it again? What if I regret walking away? It feels like you're protecting your future self, guarding against inconvenience, scarcity, or a moment when you might be caught unprepared. But here's the thing I didn't see for years. That phrase, just in case, almost always comes from fear. Fear of missing out, fear of waste, fear of looking foolish if you don't have the thing you should have. And fear-based buying rarely leads to freedom. I used to think I was being smart when I stocked up on items just in case, but in reality, I was slowly building a museum of hypothetical situations. A third set of measuring cups in case two weren't enough. Extra bedding for guests who never stayed over. Camping gear for the epic trip I never took. Those things weren't saving me from anything. They were silently demanding space, attention, and energy every single day. And in almost every situation, the emergency I was preparing for never happened. On the rare occasion it did, I almost always found another way, a substitute I already owned, a quick borrow from a friend, or the realization that it wasn't as urgent as I imagined. The trap is subtle. You think you're creating security, but what you're really creating is clutter, a net that catches dust instead of catching you. One afternoon, I was reorganizing a storage bin, the kind you shove under the bed and forget about for years. I pulled off the lid and stared at what could have been a time capsule, except it wasn't full of memories. It was full of what-ifs. 2 extra umbrellas, still in their packaging because I was convinced rainy days would somehow multiply. Kitchen gadgets with labels still stuck on them. The apple corer, the avocado slicer. Bought for recipes I never actually made. A stack of emergency notebooks despite the fact that nearly all my ideas now live in my phone. Even a sewing kit for clothes I never planned to sew. As I sat there, it hit me. Not one of these things had rescued me from disaster. They hadn't made my life easier. Instead, they've been quietly taxing me, asking for storage space, asking for my time to move them around, asking for mental bandwidth every time I saw them and thought, I should really use that someday. It was in that moment I realized I wasn't living for the life I actually had. I was living for a version of life that existed only in my imagination. A life where emergencies were constant, where every possible scenario needed preparing for. And I didn't want to keep giving my home, my money, and my peace of mind to a future that might never come. That was the day I decided to stop living for hypotheticals and start living for now. After that afternoon, I started looking at my home differently. I realized the future is unpredictable, and that's okay. No amount of just-in-case buying can protect me from every curveball life throws. If anything, it weighed me down so much that I had less energy to actually deal with challenges when they came. I noticed that most of the scenarios I was preparing for never happened. The emergency dinner party I stocked up on extra serving platters for, it never materialized. The travel adapters I bought for the overseas trips I swore I'd take, they sat in a drawer for 3 years until I donated them. And when something did happen unexpectedly, I almost always had an alternative. A borrowed tool from a neighbor, a workaround with something I already owned, or the realization that the need wasn't urgent after all. The biggest shift, though, was understanding that clutter costs more than money. Every unused thing took a little tax from me, time to dust it, organize it, or move it around to get to the things I actually use. Embark pace that could have been open, calm, and inviting. and a tension, that tiny jolt of guilt or mental to-do every time I saw it and thought, I should really use that. When I bought for the life I imagined I might have someday, I was quietly neglecting the one I was living right now. And the truth is, my real life deserved better. Breaking the just-in-case habit wasn't an overnight flip of a switch. It was more like slowly retraining my mind to stop buying for imaginary futures. I had to put clear, compassionate rules in place for myself. Rule 1, if I can borrow it or rent it when I actually need it, I don't buy it. That meant saying no to a carpet cleaner on clearance, even though the discount was tempting, because I could rent one from the hardware store down the street if I ever needed it. It meant resisting the urge to buy camping gear for a trip I wasn't even sure I'd take, because a friend had already offered to lend me theirs. Rule 2, if I already own something that could work, even imperfectly, I don't buy another. Like the time I almost bought a new casserole dish for special occasions. The truth? My old one worked just fine. Maybe not Instagram perfect, but perfectly functional for a dinner with friends. Rule 3, if the exact situation hasn't happened in the past year, I probably don't need to prepare for it. I once almost bought snow chains for my tires after a freak weather forecast, but I realized I hadn't driven in snow once in the past 5 years. That was fear talking, not reality. And then there's my 24-hour pause rule. If I see something I'm convinced I'll need one day, I walk away and wait a full day before deciding. It's amazing how often I forget about it completely. The urgency fades, and I'm left wondering why I thought I needed it so badly in the first place. What surprised me most was how freeing these small rules felt. They weren't about deprivation, they were about trust. Trusting that I could handle life as it happened, without stockpiling for every maybe and what if. Since letting go of just-in-case buying, my home feels lighter. Not just cleaner, but easier to breathe in. I can open a drawer and find exactly what I'm looking for without sifting through a tangle of unused gadgets. My closet no longer hides clothes waiting for a someday event. It holds only pieces I actually wear. The shelves in my kitchen aren't bowing under the weight of backup appliances, mismatched storage containers, or half-finished craft projects I thought I'd get around to. I spend less, and not just on the obvious purchases. I also spend less energy shopping, less time browsing, and less mental space wondering where I'll put the next thing. The things I do buy feel intentional, chosen, and appreciated. Every object in my home has a place and a purpose, and that makes even the smallest items feel valuable. And the calm I feel now, that's the real win. I'm not surrounded by silent reminders of all the what-ifs I never followed through on. Instead, my environment reflects the life I'm actually living. And that's a life I can step into every morning without feeling weighed down. But maybe the biggest change is this. I've learned to trust myself. I no longer believe I need to prepare for every possible scenario. I trust that when life throws something unexpected my way, I'll figure it out. That confidence has freed up more space in my mind than any decluttering project ever could. If you've been caught in the just-in-case trap, please know you're not alone. I spent years thinking I was being wise and prepared, only to realize I was quietly preparing for a version of life that never came. So here's a gentle challenge. For the next month, before you buy anything for a hypothetical situation, pause. Ask yourself, has this scenario happened before? Do I already have something that could work? Could I borrow it if I needed to? You might be surprised at how often the answer frees you from buying altogether. Start small. Maybe it's one drawer, one shelf, or just one category, like kitchen gadgets or extra linens. See what it feels like to let go of the what-ifs in that one area. Notice the lightness in your space and in yourself. Because here's the truth. Life isn't meant to be lived in the future tense. It's not meant to be an endless stockpile for someday. It's meant to be lived right here in the moments you're already in. And when you stop buying for later, you create room for the life you're living today. And that's the one worth making space for. If this video spoke to you, give it a like, share it with someone who might need to hear it, and tell me in the comments, what's one just-in-case item you've been holding on to? I'd love to hear your story.